right, man. Draft's over. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I mean, there are some highs, some lows. I got the players that I wanted to get. Honestly, a lot of power out there on the field, and there's some teams to be looking out for.
I'm completely panicked. I look at my team and I hate it. I actually offered a couple of people a team swap, which is where we swap our entire team. Just a full swap. I've never seen anyone do it, so I was. I did offer a couple, but the thing is, every time I had that feeling, I end up doing well those years. It's when I'm confident I do bad normally.
I do have to say, I thought it was funny. We go into the draft, you swap for 5th place, and it's only the first round. And then,
everyone who doesn't know, which I assume is most people, I offered to trade draft picks with Cole. We trade draft picks. It's about 3 minutes to the draft, and I start selecting people I want, and I realize it only traded the first round. So basically, I take Ramirez 101. He's not terrible, but he's not Acuna or Judge. I feel like those two guys are far and away better than a lot of people, and it fucked my whole draft up. It really did.
At least we got to see Tatis get taken first.
I wish you could have seen me in person flipping out, because I call Cole 2 minutes left on the clock. Like, Cole, it only did the first round. It's fucked up. We can just roll with it, or you can do the honorable thing. You draft Acuna Jr., I draft whoever you want, and we just pretend it never happened. We'll trade after the draft. Gentleman's agreement. He's like, okay, we'll do that. Hang up the phone. First pick comes up. He takes Tatis. I text him, you're on your own. Go fuck yourself.
It's a classic pickup. And, I mean, after Tatis doesn't perform the first 30 days, I'm willing to make a trade. He's going to have a bad first 30. I'll do a trade afterwards.
I've already sent the trades in now. I want them. I'll take them. I'll pay handsomely for them. But that would lead me into my number 2 slide here, keys to winning. And drafting a solid team is nice. It's important. I think it's important for enthusiasm. You get people you like.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's only part of it. I think you need a little bit of luck, and you need good pickups and trades throughout the season, the management part of it.
Absolutely.
So it's not everything. I had a mess up in the last year's draft. My 5th round was thrown away. It auto-drafted me someone that wasn't in the league. So what would be a baseball draft if it didn't have something go terribly wrong for me? So if anything, it's a good sign. So I put all of our league into Fantasy Pros, and I just wanted to see what they thought about the teams. I at first was feeling okay about my draft. I was like, all right, I got some good pieces here. So I put it in. It ranked me 10th overall in Fantasy Pros, and actually did the cool overall how I'm doing by categories. I don't know if you can see that on the right there. So stolen bases, home runs are both strong. I stayed pretty balanced in batting, although for whatever reason, it's like your RBIs and runs are really terrible, which shocked me. Saves, but obviously, by saves. A mile. Yeah. I am stacked.
I already made a trade with you also that gives you some more saves.
Giving me more saves.
If you're not winning saves.
I will be shocked if I lose a single week of saves. My entire strategy is built around having those relief pitchers, so I don't mind that it thinks it's terrible because I'm doing a non-standard build for my team. So I'm okay with it. I was shocked to see how bad it has me at batting. So we'll jump into those a little bit more later. But
really quick, while we're talking about saves, we're already getting some complaints from Lucas. He said he was prepared for save/holds, and kind of some beta complaints from him. Everybody knows saves are more alpha.
Yeah, I do think saves are the more alpha way. That's why we went with it. It's a more elite. It's more. You got to embrace the lack of saves. It's part of the game. And I explained it to Cole 5 times before, but he's new to it. I know that there's too much information overload. He's like, well, I got 2 relief pitchers. He's like, now click and look how many saves they're both going to get. Because combined, they had 2 last year.
Yeah.
So you don't have saves, buddy. So you're
Yep.
starting every week 0-1 until you trade me, the guy with the saves. A lot of extra saves to go around.
Yeah. Maybe that's a great trading strategy. You monopolize a certain category, and then when people need it, you get those good trades.
Normally, I would say it doesn't work out, but it's just such a critical position. You have to have it to be competitive. I don't know. In my mind, I was like, I'll keep taking these relief pitchers that are falling rounds. I didn't reach on any of them. Like, if they fell to me, I took them. And my thought is, I can trade them for people I know I like that I didn't get to draft. So with Cole, I was trying to trade him for Brian Reynolds because I like him. He was on my championship team last year. And so now we're negotiating relief pitchers for that.
I did notice during the draft that every relief pitcher was ranked as being taken early, and it's because of that scarcity. I mean, there'd be somebody who's ranked like 200, but their normal pick rate was at like 150.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yep, and I think that's why it's hard to rank players too, because it's all about what your team needs. So like, yeah, this guy might be ranked really high, but if all my team needs is stolen bases, he's not and he doesn't get them. Like, he's not worth that much to me. So I don't know, team build. But anyway, the top 4 teams, according to Fantasy Pros, Vince number 1, Art, Gabe, and Nick. So what are your initial thoughts on this top 4 here?
I like 3 of them. I mean, 3 of them I understand. There's one that's an outlier that's definitely going to underperform. We all know who that is. But
Art?
Yeah, it's absolutely Art.
You know what? A quick spoiler into this episode. I'm with you now. I think Art is out. I think Art is sitting back, not taking it seriously enough, and I think he's going to lose to some of these more hungry, active managers. So I think Art's time in the sun is over. I think he's out.
He doesn't pay attention to the Facebook Messenger group chat, and there's a lot of good key information that's
a lot of insight to be gained there. So yeah, I think Art's out, and Vince says he's gonna have the brisket party, but we heard that last year, so I'm scared he's cursed. No matter how good Fantasy Pros says he is. I like Gabe and Nick on here. I think Gabe's coming in hungry this year. He tied with the team that made it to the playoffs, and he didn't. He was right there. He was so close. So, what about some of these teams on the bottom here? This would be the rest of us, the other 8. Any of these that you're surprised to see so low? Lucas at 11, myself at 10, Scott at 9. The 3 of us are just buried by these rankings.
But honestly, I mean, I think last year, immediately after the draft, you guys weren't ranked very high either. I mean, I know we didn't do the Fantasy Pros ranking, but I think those are 3 really good managers who, they'll play out the season and they'll pick up some really good people.
Yeah, so of course I had to look through the teams, and I'm grading them more than just the roster. But I do need to look through the roster, so we'll get into some of my biases I put into my rankings, and then we'll do a final ranking. But we can start going through these teams. I like to look at teams as pitching heavy, balanced, or batting heavy. So like they're one of the 3, hopefully. If they're none of the 3, then they're just bad. So
yeah,
I went in the order that Fantasy Pro had us ranked from worst to best. So I'm not saying that those are my rankings here. That's just the order I went in. So the first team is War Hero Cole. So clearly Fantasy Pros has 0 respect for the vets. I looked at his team, and I'll be honest, I put each category in good, mid, or bad. And I was just kind of off gut feeling at first, and then I went back and kind of moved these around until I could understand what was good or bad. ERA and WHIP, I did not want to crunch all those numbers. That's just a gut feeling. So I looked at the ERA and WHIP, and I was like, looks pretty good. And then I would put it in one of them. So, yeah, I think ERA, WHIP, strikeouts, all good for Cole. I think those are good categories. His wins are only middling, but, he can add pitchers. I think he has 5 fucking batters. Way too many on his bench. So if you turn those into 5 pitchers, I think this is actually the best pitching team in the league, which is why I'm trying to steal one of his good batters with the relief pitchers. As like if you had a couple relief pitchers on here, I mean, you're running the table and pitching, and that's how I won last year. So maybe give it a
Yep.
shot. So
But then there's a lot of bad.
all the batting is bad, which is crazy because he has 5 batters, and I can't tell you how. I'll try to explain. When they are doing the totals here, when they're doing the projections for how many we're getting, it's adding up all your bench player stats. But in reality, you're not going to get those stats.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, he gets a bunch. Like if you look on the side here at RBI, 89 from Tellez, 47, 34, 14, 36, going through his bench. So all those numbers extra, and he still has a terrible RBI.
Absolutely.
So this is a horrific batting team.
2 saves. That's crazy.
He's just
We'll
2 saves.
we'll look at some saves on my team and your team, and we'll look at some real
Compare.
saves.
Yeah. So yeah, I tried to explain to him in the text, and I was like, you know what? I'm giving you too good of a deal. I'm pulling it. Here's a couple of bad deals. I don't think you realize how much you need relief pitching, how much you need saves, because it is a good team with those wins. He adjust it, get some more pitchers to make the wins go into the good. Get a couple of nice closers. Now you're talking. Now this is a dominant pitching team, which sucks at batting, but that's okay. He still has half the categories covered. So
you don't need to win every category every week.
Right, trial by fire for Cole here, and I think he'll have to make adjustments and learn. But yeah, I'm not super impressed by his team at this point, and I'll be honest, I think it's pretty fair to have him at 12 based on his current build, but lots of time to make adjustments to this team, which will be needed. I think it will end up being one of the best pitching teams. So although I do think it's kind of the worst team at this point, I don't think he'll actually finish 12th when the season's said and done, because he's going to be getting wins from that pitching category.
I will say, name's going to throw me off the entire season if he doesn't change that with Jason's definitive team.
Yeah, I think he should just change it to War Hero Cole, but that's his call. So 11th place, Lucas Wobbuffet. It's one of the bottom ranked teams, so it's not going to have the best numbers here, but his Ks are good, so he's got a lot of pitchers. Unlike batting, where I don't think all the extra batters can help you, having a bunch of pitchers, you can rotate them in for starts, so that it can help you to have a deep bench with actually good players down there. I think his problem is, as batting heavy as he went in the draft, I just don't think he has enough home runs, RBI, and runs. Those should be better, and they're all in the bad category. Now, part of that's because he has only one bench guy. I get that, but he should at least be in the mid there, and I think he's going to be in trouble. I would call this a balanced team. So that's not a terrible spot to start from. You're balanced. You see who works out. You make adjustments, make trades, make pickups, whatever.
Yeah.
But as far as if you had to play with the team you have that you started with, I do think this is bad. I know Lucas, he's a grinder, though. I do think he's going to make the playoffs. He could drop everyone and start on the free agency and probably just work his way back in. So I know he
is, in my mind, the most obsessive player. He went all out last year. Yeah. I mean, got on some big name podcasts, research.
I almost want to see it go like another level into obsession, where he's like Charlie in the mailroom. Like I want to see how far this can go. But honestly, even if I thought he had the worst team, I'd still probably pick him to go in the playoffs, because I just think he's proven his level of obsession. So not a great team on paper. I don't like the lack of power, and we'll see how that plays out.
Who do you like as his best player? Who's going to be his star from the draft?
Manny Machado, a manly man, and Mike Trout, if his back doesn't cause problems. Those two plus Perez are his only big home run hitters. All of his other guys are not big home run hitters. I guess Anthony Santander, I don't believe in him as much. But like a lot of his guys are just like, oh, we have good batting average, and maybe we steal some bases, which he's still projected low on stolen bases. He did pick up. I don't see him here on this screenshot. I wonder if he picked him up after the draft. He picked up Volpe from the Yankees, and I have a water bet that my random free agent guy performs better on the year, but I do think Volpe will be a good source of stolen bases, so that probably moves him over to mid. But all right, enough about Lucas. Lucas's lame team. Time to talk about a team with some guts. I'm not saying it's a good team, but it's got a lot of guts.
A team with also 5 bad categories.
Yes. All in pitching, but that's part of my strategy, right? So here's how I imagine my team. This was my plan. I'm going to draft the most badass group of batters that there ever was. And then I'm going to pair it with a bunch of relief pitchers. And the idea is relief pitchers, they get to play multiple times in a week, right?
Yeah.
And on top of that, they have pretty good ERA and WHIP because they're only playing 1 innings. So my ERA and WHIP should actually be better than it looks. And I'm going to win saves. So that's 3 categories there. You pair that with a great batting team, you're golden. All right. Yeah. So I look at my team now and I'm like, oh, I guess my batting's not that great. So I am a little nervous. I don't have as much pop. I got to say Ronald Acuna would have made this team pop a little bit more on paper. But
can't get him.
Impossible. So, yeah, my OBP is really bad. I thought it was good. I was like, my one thing in my mind was I had the worst average all last year, batting average. I lost it like every week. I was like, I'm not going to have a bad batting average again. I'm going to make sure not to be the worst all year. And then I think I'm tied for the worst again. And a good batting average was 300. And I was like, I think a good OBP is like 0.32 in my mind is what I told myself. And it's really more like 3.4 is a really good batting average. And so, yeah, I ended up with a terrible OBP. Again, my bad. But yeah, I still have hope for this team. I'm going to dominate saves. I'm going to trade relief pitchers for key players. This is a going in with the mindset of needing to do some trades. But I have some high value stocks.
A note we should make is you have already traded out Chris Bassett and picked up an extra relief pitcher.
Right? So, instead of running from it, instead of looking at this and being like, God damn, I have too many relief pitchers, I doubled down. I traded one of my very few pitchers that I had and got another relief pitcher. So, yeah, I'm all in on relief pitchers, man. I'm going to sink or swim with it. I don't know how it's going to go. I'll be honest. I don't know how it'll go. But we're going to find out.
Make you or break you.
Yeah, we're going to find out. So I'm excited to see how I can manage this team. We'll see. Also, I will say, although I am rated bad on some of these categories, I have only Nelson Cruz on my bench there for batting, who I've already dropped. I don't have a lot of those extra stats. I do think on a category basis, I'm going to be pretty decent. I would put me right in middle of the road for batting. So I think I actually have a deceptively good batting team. We'll find out. All right. Butthole showers.
Showers.
Showers? I thought we agreed it was showers.
I completely forget.
All right. Well, either way, he's got his balls out on the table, and he says he doesn't give a fuck about saves. 0.
Yeah.
He drafted no relief pitching.
Big fat 0.
In fact, he got Sparps, which are basically starting pitchers that go ahead and just start like a normal pitcher, but you can put them in your relief spot. He's all in, and he doesn't care. He's willing to let that category go. So we'll see what Hunter Brown ends up doing. But yeah, bold strategy, dominant batting. Not only does he actually have a bunch of really good batters, he also has a bench full of 4 batters. So I don't understand why there's so many batters on people's benches. Maybe there's something I don't understand. Batters. Right?
You need a lot of
stacked. This is a batting heavy team for sure. I know I said Jason was pitching heavy, Woba's balanced. I felt like I was just bad. I don't know where to put it. It wasn't batter dominant, even though I tried to be. I guess relief heavy, but this is for sure one of the better batting teams. A lot of interesting guys. So Freddie Freeman, really good. I know he loves first baseman on this team. Kyle Schwarber, second place in home runs last year. Really good. Corbin Carroll, he's like the young darling of the league. And of course, because it's fucking Scott, he always goes in hard on two really good first basemen. So he also has Matt Olson with Freddie Freeman. So, yeah, we'll see how it works out.
I gotta say, I mean, the two standouts on his team for me personally are Freddie and Miles Mikolas. I mean, both good players, maybe not the best, but both just have balls. I mean, they are some cocky players. Freddie Freeman, I mean, famously last year hated everybody because he wasn't getting paid enough and, was trying to move contracts and get paid more. And I love that about a player. He knows what he's worth.
Right? Yeah, I think this is a team that will compete, wins ERA, WHIP, K. So he's going to compete in everything but saves. And for batting, I think he's going to compete in everything but stolen bases. So that's a 8-2 team, right? On paper, pretty good.
Yeah.
It is ranked pretty low by fantasy pros, but I don't know. Maybe I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt because I'm so used to seeing him on top that it's hard to imagine it just not working out.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so then the Shane Victorinos.
Most mid team.
I love how mid it is because he was tied for 6th and just barely slipped in. And then when it comes to his team, one home run's kind of low, WHIP's kind of good. This is also the only team I actually separated ERA and WHIP. Like I do think his ERA is kind of mid, but then I look through his WHIP and I'm like, it's actually like noticeably better. So that's his one good and one bad. Everything else just mid. And it'd be easy to discount this team. You'd be like, you know what? He got lucky. He barely snuck in last year. You don't think he's all that committed. Yada, yada, yada. I won't even say anything about his team. Do you know what his strategy is this year?
I don't.
He has put his entire team into Chat GPT. What is it? Chat GPT. Is that what it is?
Yeah, GPT.
And he makes all his decisions.
He's having the AI decide.
Every single decision is based on the AI.
Well, I mean,
I think it's a genius, innovative, forward-thinking way of managing. So if he actually keeps that up all year, watch out. Dangerous
he may
team.
win.
You know what? I thought I was going to pull one over on him on a trade, and he sent me the screenshot of ChatGPT saying no. It's like, holy shit.
Or if he keeps it up and loses, then we'll finally prove we're better than the computers.
I know I'm nervous. Computers beat fucking master chess players all the time. You know, what mortal man can keep up with the AI? So it's really.
You will notice the AI didn't put any pitchers on his bench, so that's going to be a little scary for him, I think. But
right, it could adjust as they go. I don't know. I was going to say the only weakness is him explaining to the computer the situation fully.
What he needs.
Right. It always comes back to the human element, and
he's the one weakness.
Yeah, he's the one weakness. He needs to explain it's not roto or points. It's head-to-head categories. It's a daily lineup. Like, that's all on him to explain to the computer. Mm-hmm. So I think the only weakness in his team is the human element. If he can properly work with the computer, he might be he should rename his team the Terminator, first of all. But yeah, I think this could be dangerous. I'm actually a little fearful of what all right, next team, worst team.
Yeah, I mean, that's going along the strategy I have of coming out and losing a lot early. Like I said, it's the Lanky Bird strategy based off of you last year. So I want people to underestimate me. I am the worst team.
Well, Fantasy Pros disagrees. It had you ranked much higher than me. You don't have a lot of pitching bench. You also, like everyone else, seem to do. A lot of batters. I don't know.
Some coverage.
I don't know if that's for coverage or you're taking some long shots and you're just going to wait and see and then drop them for whoever else if they don't work out.
Mm-hmm.
I personally don't believe in two catchers.
Well, so I hate having positions not filled on game day. Every day of the week, I want a position filled. And that's why I take a lot of coverage. I mean, those players: Jake Cronenworth, Christopher Morel.
Yeah, Morel.
They have a lot of
It's freaking.
They have a lot of
weird.
positions they can play.
Yeah.
So I want somebody in there every single day. So I believe I have at least 2 people for each position on batting.
Yeah, you're well covered. So
Yeah.
ready
2
ready to
catchers.
roll.
That's the new strategy.
Two catchers. You never know. And so I was going to argue, like, if my catcher. By the way, you have Contreras, and I also have Contreras. I have Wilson. You have William.
Yeah.
We both have the Contreras catcher, so good pick there. Yeah, I think you need to trade like Trey Mancini for Drury, who's also like eligible at every position. Then you'll just always have a guy moving him in.
No, I had a few reaches in the draft to get my babies. I mean, I got Jazz, I got my darling Starling, so I'm happy. I'm happy with how it went.
And I don't know if we need to bring up our cameo from this week, but I did see you took Jacob deGrom, and I was just curious if that was part of the motivation.
A little bit. I mean, I take professional advice, so when I get the professional advice, I mean, I heed it, and
yeah.
He's going to be a standout this year.
I think he is. So when healthy, I think he is unarguably the best pitcher in baseball. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of health, and he's going into the season healthy. I just don't know if the arm is meant to stay together, like all the muscles, when you're throwing at like a 95-mile-per-hour slider. Like
it is not. One bad throw and his arm separates and then he's gone forever.
Yeah, and everyone's like, "Oh, just throw it a little slower." Like that's not who he is. He throws it as hard as he can every time. That's who he is. That's why he's great. So like, I just don't know if the human body can hold up to what he does. But and then you got Dirty Nestor Cortez. I like your pitching, and I think you have a lot of interesting guys on your batting. It has your weakness as wins and Ks, which that's to be expected when you don't have a lot of depth at pitching right now. That's easily adjustable, though. So, like, if I had to pick 2 things to be bad at, those would be the 2. And I am also bad at those anyway, plus more.
And, I mean, I will note, I think I am the only team who has you beat on saves. About 50% more saves than you.
Yeah, you're at 162, and I am at 112. However...
we have traded.
You traded me 41 of those away. So there's a big swing there. Of course, that's just projections from last year and everything. So we'll see how it actually shakes up. But yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy for the addition. I'm all in, man. And that actually Bassett should help you a little bit on wins and Ks. So you know, and you're still going to be good at saves. I'll say now, pretty much every team has just 2 guys that get some saves or less. And then there's you and me. So
we really took it to heart.
If I tried to like corner the market, I think everyone kind of pulled over one on us, right? Because we're going to beat everyone, sure, but them, even if you only have 2, it doesn't matter because you're probably still going to win half the time anyway. So like, we've cornered this market, and I don't know. Hopefully, we capitalize on it. We'll see how it goes. I am committed to it. I'm not backing out. I'm always going to have more than 2. I like having 4 solid guys.
Mm-hmm. All right, next team. Maybe the team I respect the least.
Simon's Silly Sensations. Well, it's hard to respect a team with Silly. Oh, really quick on your team. I heard in a podcast people referring to the baseball 4Bs, and that's what they liked in fantasy baseball. They said theirs were big, beefy baseball boys. So big power hitters is what theirs were.
Mine are a little different, but yeah, it is a common strategy.
Mm-hmm. So I just want to give you props for that.
Let's talk about this trash team coming up.
Yep. So balanced is my first thoughts when I look at it. Good strikeout, ERA, whip numbers. So I think he actually could be a dominant pitching team. But then I go through the names and I'm like, you Darvish, Valdez, Duran. I'm like, meh. I don't know.
It's just people I don't like. He has Chris Sale. I can't stand that guy.
Center field, turning and looking his breath.
Oh my goodness. A big loud
Ball struck well to center field. Bradley Jr. all the way back, looking up. This ball's gone.
Andrew Heaney
I-
has already been said they're going to limit him a bit. So, like, then on numbers, it looks fine. But then when I go through the players, I actually don't like them. Now, when I go through the batters, I think Bo Bichette, Nolan Arenado, and Mookie Betts, I think those three are awesome. I actually wanted Jose Abreu, and he ended up getting him. So I think those four, nice little base of batters. Michael Harris, I think, is always drafted too soon. I don't know if he can live up to his numbers from last year, but he still seems to be a good outfielder. But then after that, I'm not a huge fan of a lot of the players. So, yeah, this my impressions of this team were just like, meh. It's an interesting batting team. We'll see what he does on pitching. He could adjust and make because it's kind of balanced. I think he can make adjustments. He can either trade some of those batters, go in more on pitching, or the reverse. He can trade some of these pitchers and try to get one or more two pieces with some pop for that batting core. So it's not completely dire. As in my team, I think it's either going to be a great success or burn out hard. I do think this is as far as some of the bottom teams, a safer spot to be in. So I think he was 6th overall. So just meh, right in the middle. And I think that's a pretty fair ranking.
Mm-hmm.
So next, Josh's team. Saves is the only thing he's bad in. But we kind of talked about if you get any saves, if you have two guys, which he does, Devin Williams and Diaz are both fine.
Yeah, he's going to beat some people.
Yeah. So even though it's a quote-unquote bad ranking, like I think that he actually will win it half the time. So deceptively good team. It's definitely pitcher heavy. Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander took the two starting Mets pitchers, both really good, both old as fuck. And then I like a lot of the guys behind it. Max Fried, I think, is a super value. He's one of the people I was hoping to get, but did not. I think he racks up wins, and he's on a good team. Rodon is injured, but when he comes back, like I don't know how much he's missing to start the year. I think he might be back after a couple of weeks. So, yeah, I don't know. This is a good team, especially pitching.
I do want to
batting's
say,
good too.
I mean, little weird pickup, in my opinion, Kyle Bradish. I don't know if that was a mistake or a reach. Maybe he just likes him. But
Right? He's on to something. He's got a beat.
Kind of weird, huh?
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's still just getting a feel for everything. But even with that awesome batting or pitching core, he still has Shohei Ohtani and Juan Soto. I think two of the best. Like they're two top 10 hitters, right? And just like for outfield and utility spots. So I don't know. It's an interesting team.
I do believe he has the most day-to-day people right now, which, I mean, there's some time before the season starts, but
yeah,
he does look like he has a little bit of an injury-prone team.
So,
I mean,
also, just if some of you are like, why the hell isn't this guy in IL yet? For example, I picked up another relief pitcher who happens to have cancer. They will not go on IL until the first week. So, no, until the actual team puts them on IL, which won't happen until the start of the season, they won't be there. So they're going to stay day to day until that happens. So I think Mitch Haniger will actually move to IL. Carlos Rodon will actually move to IL. But I believe Juan Soto is starting. And Alejandro Kirk, I believe, starting as well. So those should be fine.
Yeah. We'll see if it keeps up, though. Like you said, I mean, Scherzer, Verlander, both old guys.
Both old, but both really freaking good. I mean, you're talking, what, 30 wins just from those two guys, probably. And they're both probably going to be around 180 strikeouts with great ERA and WHIP. Like, that's pretty good. Those two are pretty good. So that's a nice core.
They stay in it.
Yeah, if they stay healthy. They are Mets, so they're cursed. That's just part of being a Met.
They're going to get hit by a lot of balls this year.
Yeah, even the pitchers. The batters and the pitchers. They all get it. The man who earned my respect last season, Nick. Black Sox innocent. I look at his team and I want to say I don't like it. But then I remember I respect him. So I give it another look, and you look real close. You got to look real close at every player. You can start to see reasons for optimism.
Yeah.
David Robertson, his relief pitcher, his second one, maybe the closer. If he ends up being the full-time closer, that's going to be a steal. He might be the best closer in the game if he gets the job. So that's interesting. I love Pablo Lopez. I love Reed Detmers, some of his later picks. Up at the top, he got the best catcher in the league, supposedly. I still believe it's Perez, but that guy ADP-wise goes first. Gunnar Henderson, young guy coming up, young gun. We'll see how he does. Kyle Tucker, he was on my winning team last year. So there's like pieces. You start looking through, you see some of the pieces coming together. Bryce Harper day to day, we'll see how that goes. He'll be back later, I guess. So stolen bases low, that's fine. Saves, not very high. But he does have two guys, so it could end up being okay. And wins, well, he's got a lot of batters that suck down there on the bench. Bryce Harper's going to move to IL, so he could pick up another pitcher. I don't know. He's earned my respect. I'm going to say this is a good team. That's my feeling.
Yeah, and he does have who I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, the player with the most coverage in the league, Brendan Donovan. Which sometimes you need some of those guys as utility. I picked up a few, and I think he may have the most covered player. I mean, 5 spots. That is
He's
insane.
Just waiting for a chance. Every place but catcher. Just waiting. So, and he has himself covered because he has the number 1 drafted catcher. So that should be solid there. So Donovan's waiting for a chance to get in the lineup. I'm going to go ahead and say this is a balanced team, and I think a good team overall. All right, the big batter team that just got hit with a bunch of injuries last year, he doubled down. He wasn't scared, and he got some more big-time hitters. He took Byron Buxton and Seiya Suzuki, both very injury-prone. Carlos Correa, who got offered $350 million to play for the Giants. They gave him a physical, and they said, no way, we're not signing him. Then the Mets offered him $300 million. He agreed. Day before the parade, they gave him a physical, said, no way, we're not paying you. And then he went back to Minnesota. So apparently he has those bamboo ankles, and they're not going to hold up long term. But he should be good this year. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. All I'm highlighting here is Chris doesn't care about injury concerns. He's just going for these big hitters. He got some good pitchers as well. Saves is his only weakness, but it wouldn't surprise me if he won those a third of the time, even with only 23 projected there. So, good. This is a good team. Like I said, he has a chip on his shoulder. It's one of the teams I like. And it's the 3rd overall in Fantasy Pros rating. Which brings us into the most controversial team, maybe. The Pine Riders. Art. He doesn't give a crap about saves. Although Dominguez, I think, is going to be in a pretty good spot. I think he'll get more than what he got last year there. So it might be at 20. Home runs is really low. That shocked me too. And 5 batters. Runs RBI should be super high, and they're not. Even with 5 batters there. Like, I don't think this team's good. I'm just going to say it. Even with Ronald Acuna Jr. at number 2 overall, I still think he has a bad team and is undeserving of Ronald Acuna on this team. That should be someone else.
I mean, in the first podcast episode, you asked me who's my hot take of not going to do well this year, and it's Art. I think he may prove me right.
And I disagreed. And then I saw his team. Jeremy Pena, bum. Jonathan India, bum. Nathan Lowe, most overrated first baseman in the game. CJ Cron, complete joke. Like, he's beyond joke. It's just sad. Not a good team. I hate this team. This is the team I hate the most by far. Not a big fan. So I have a lot of respect for Art's experience. Maybe he knows something I don't know. But this team's trash. I also thought Spencer Strider was super overrated. He was going in like the 4th round, and I do think he's a good pitcher and he's fun to watch. Not deserving to go that high. Way too high.
No. Yeah.
And of course it ends up on this team. So, yeah, not a big fan of it. And this was the 2nd overall rated team.
Yeah. And now we're on to the top team.
The number 1
Which
team. Great Hambinos.
It hurts me to see him up here.
Yeah, and again, the only bad thing, saves. 39. That's actually pretty high. I think he'll win it more than half the time.
Yeah.
K's, really hard to predict. I think he has enough to win that over half the time, and he's dominant in all the other ones. So he got Aaron Judge. That's going to help everyone's home run numbers.
Yep.
I will say he's already taken a hit. Rhys Hoskins, torn ACL, out for the season. So throw those 30 home runs out the window. He does have Josh Bell, who he can move up, but he's already taken a hit there. And I think that's the Brisket curse. And that's why it's hard for me to take this team serious.
Aaron Judge is going to get in a terrible car accident.
I don't know when he's going to learn to take this curse seriously. The Cubs tried to deny their curse for a long time. I don't know how long Vince is going to ignore it. So he's already got one casualty. Is he going to wait another week? See who else gets hurt?
Mm-hmm.
It could be a second baseman next. Who knows? So
it's going to work its way through his team.
I look at this team, and I do think it's a great team. But I also look at this team, and I see the owner, and I can't trust it. I don't know if we want to play our cameo here.
Yeah, mine as well.
All right. Fantasy baseball season's here, and it's time to start thinking about what players to draft. Who's the best pitcher? Who's the best hitter? Who's the best value? You know, what you want to get is a pitcher that could put up numbers, and a pitcher that could strike out batters, pitcher that could collect wins, and has a low ERA. The problem is the pitcher that does that a lot is Jacob deGrom, but you don't know if he's durable enough. And if you draft Shohei Ohtani, are you drafting him as a DH or are you drafting him as a pitcher? Overall, I would say probably the best hitter value, because just what he does is Aaron Judge. Home runs, RBIs, clicks all the boxes. And last year he proved to be durable. Pitcher-wise, I mean, you could take a chance on Verlander. But that's probably going to be wise. But Strider of the Braves could also be a good pickup as he strikes out a lot of batters. But the most important thing is Vince. Make the goddamn brisket, Vince. You promised last year to make it. Make the fucking brisket, Vince. All right.
But yeah, Frank said it, man. You gotta have the brisket party.
You gotta respect the tank. The tank knows what he's talking about.
Right.
And if he tells you to have a brisket party, you're gonna have the brisket party.
So I looked at all these numbers, and obviously I hate this ranking because it didn't have me very high on it. So then I started reworking the numbers. I started adding up everybody's projections for their players.
You gotta rework those numbers to make you look higher. I know how you do it.
And then I reworked the numbers, and it still was bad for me. So this was just, what's the average? Are you above it or below it? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was still looking really bad, so I didn't like that. So then I was like, okay, there needs to be a mid area, not just good bad. There needs to be a middle ground. So I reworked the numbers again, this time adding, a mid to it. And I also threw ERA and WHIP in as well, although that was still totally based off my gut. And my team still looked really bad. But if you add up what's the win-loss draw, mid would be draw, right? So Vince is still the highest ranked team at 8-1-1. So I didn't like that. So then I reworked the numbers again to give it a point value. And this time, if you were good at something, +1. If you're bad at something, -1. And if you're just mid at something, you get a 0.5 score, right? Because you're going to win it like half the time. And if you do that, Aaron goes from worst. Aaron actually was the lowest rated by that previous version, and that didn't make a lot of sense. He actually flies up the ranks here to fourth place. Not bad. So I looked at that and I said, okay, I believe in the system. However, using the system, I'm now dead last, negative 4.5. I hurt myself somehow crunching all these numbers. I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense because I don't believe that. So we need to consider my bias additions. Okay. There's some things that the numbers aren't properly reflecting. So
These are more important than the numbers in some cases.
right. So I did use those as a baseline. I didn't just throw all those numbers out the window. I did spend a lot of time collecting them. I might as well use them. But there needs to be some biases put into here. So more than 2 bench batters is in most cases bad, right? So that needs to subtract from people that do that. Art, Chris, Nix, Josh, Aaron, Scott, Lucas. 7 teams did that. So I think that takes away from them a little bit. And then I said, okay, some categories are easier to fix than other categories. Like if you have a bad OBP, you can't just fix that.
Mm-hmm.
So stolen bases, saves, those are pretty easy to fix. So I think that should be put into consideration. Averages are hard to win consistently, regardless of how good or bad you are at them. So OPS, ERA, WHIP. So I don't think those should be as heavily considered when you're looking at the teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then some managers are more active than others. I think that's important to remember. We talked about Lucas's team. It was pretty low rated. I still believe in it, so I think there should be a point value added to how much you actually trust the manager to come through, right?
Okay. Yep.
Wins and strikeouts, they can be bought with substitutions. Not that big of a deal to be bad at those. 6, I just got to trust my gut. And then because Vince was still way on top after doing all that, I have to add 7, the brisket curse is real. I'm not going to just ignore that. So that has to be weighed into some of these additions. You look at it after that, now Josh is at number 1, and I moved back to 10th. So
Which is,
thankfully, after
Yep.
crunching all those numbers.
I mean, the numbers never lie.
Right. So with my bias put in and with the numbers I've crunched, Josh in first, Vince in second, Chris in third. And I have Aaron, Scott, and Nick to round out the playoffs. So now we have to ask ourselves, let's just go gut feeling here. What 6 teams do you think are actually in? With all this information in front of you. Lucas is still a 1.5. That's the 11th ranked team there. Do you trust him to make it into that top 6? And if you're putting him up there, who are you taking out?
I do trust him to get in there. And honestly, the one I would kick out for Lucas specifically, I don't think those. I think it's actually going to be quite a bit different, if I'm honest. But if I had my picks of who's not making it, I think Vince, Gabe, and Scott. Full honesty.
You're kicking all 3 of them out.
Yeah, those 3 are out.
See, so I actually like Scott this year. Chip on his shoulder, good batting team. I think with my numbers I ran,
that's bad for him.
And I think with the numbers Fantasy Pros gave, both agree. I think he's in. So I'm locking, for me personally, locking him in. I'm locking Lucas in. I'm locking Aaron in with the understanding he uses Chat GPT the whole time. If he strays from that, that's his fault and he's out. Nick earned my respect, so I got to put Nick in. And then even with all these numbers, looking at the team, how I like them, and there are those bias additions, I actually do love Josh's team. Now, I will admit, I won last year using a pitcher-heavy strategy, and that's the exact team that Josh has right now. So I think I look at it and I can see how it wins because I literally won it all with that team, that type of team last year.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put Josh in. So that only leaves 1 spot left. And I agree with you, Vince. No brisket, no playoffs, buddy. There's no way he overcomes the curse. So then it comes down to me to Scott.
Who do you put in for that spot?
I think Scott. That's who I put in there. So I would have myself and you missing the playoffs. But I think it's going to be a battle. I think that 6 spot's hard to battle because, like I said, those top 4 teams I feel real confident in. And then there's like 4 other teams in another tier that are like in contention for it. So I think me, you, Scott are going to be battling for that spot. And I think Art's out. Art and Vince are the 2 I feel like are out. And those are the top 2 rated by Fantasy Pros. Those are my 2 locks to be out.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
that's.
But anything can happen. I mean, this is baseball.
Yeah.
Numbers don't mean anything.
And I will say this is just the beginning, and that's where I want to end it at. Is again reminding you from the beginning that drafting the team's a small part of it. How you actually manage it, make trades, pickups, finding those, diamonds in the rough, all those things, and just a little bit of luck of the baseball gods. Those
We
you got to account for
we
those.
we can use Thomas as an example of last year. Had a great team drafted,
Yeah,
and then
11th
didn't
place.
manage it.
Yeah. And I truly thought, even at the end of the year, it was still a great team. The team never got bad. The team was good all year. And he couldn't figure out pitching. And that's what worries me about Caleb having a strong pitching team. He failed to manage pitching last year with a great batting team.
Yeah.
So we'll see what he does this year. But those are my picks. Those are my thoughts on the draft. Anything else to add?
Well, have a great season, everybody. I'm excited.
All right, that'll do it. We'll see you after week 1, or maybe before week 1. Maybe we can do a game preview. I don't know how much time we have before the season
And
starts.
I mean, this could be a long shot. We have a brisket podcast.
Oh man, yeah, Vince, open invite.
That's the dream.
Yeah, you have us. We'll record it live. We'll do it live, and we will record the podcast together at the brisket party. So make that happen. I fear another injury for you if you don't before the season starts. So, and I just hope it's still one of your players and not you. But all right, we'll see you guys later.
See ya.